AMD Ryzen 9000 by 3D rumored performance figures reveal faster multi-threaded and slightly slower single-threaded numbers versus non-X3D CPUs. AMD's Ryzen 9000 by 3D CPUs are coming, and it looks like they will boast faster multi-core performance than the non-X3D chips. AMD Ryzen 9000 by 3D Zen 5" CPUs might end up being faster than non-X3D chips in multi-core performance. AMD's 3D V-Cache Ryzen CPUs are some of the most sought-after chips for gamers, mainly due to the raw performance they bring on board, especially with the 3D V-Cache technology. Initially, with the release of the Ryzen 9000 series CPUs, every consumer was looking towards whether respective 3D V-Cache SKUs will be released, and luckily enough, a previous rumor validated the fact that we are looking towards the debut of 4 different chips, ranging from the Ryzen 5 9600 by 3D up to the Ryzen 9 9950 by 3D. Now, the leaker Code Commando, who has recently been active with the launch of AMD's Zen 5 Ryzen 9000 CPUs, has presented a new leak, allegedly claiming Cinebench 23 scores of 2 of AMD's Ryzen 9000 by 3D CPUs, and while he hasn't named the SKUs specifically, he does have mentioned the core counts, them being 8-core and 16-core CPUs. This implies that the 8-core variant being talked about here is the Ryzen 7 9800 by 3D, while the 16-core CPU is the Ryzen 9 9950 by 3D, which should be the flagship part. Take this information with a grain of salt for now, given the leaker's record is too confined for us to take these scores as final. Moving on to the actual leak, Code Commando states that the AMD Ryzen 7 9800 by 3D 8-core CPU delivers 2,145 points in single-core and 23,315 points in multi-core Geekbench tests, which is certainly impressive when compared to the previous gen Ryzen 7 7800 by 3D, since we are looking at double-digit performance gains in general. The AMD Ryzen 9 9950 by 3D 16-core CPU sees a single-core score of 2,245 points and multi-core at 42,375, which is yet again phenomenal against the Zen 4 counterpart. However, the leap is considered to be slightly less when compared with the Ryzen 7 9000 by 3D alternative. If we compare the single-core scores, they are mostly on par or slightly slower than the existing Zen 5 CPUs in non-X3D flavors, but the multi-core performance sees a boost with the 9950 by 3D and the 9800 by 3D ending up an alleged 2 to 12% faster. The same scores would also put the Ryzen 7 9800 by 3D up to 24% faster than the 7800 by 3D. This is interesting to see, since the 3D V-Cache parts are mostly constrained in terms of TDP, with the previous SKUs ending up with 120 watts or 65 watts designs and featuring lower clock speeds. AMD did state that they had some cool new techniques planned for the upcoming Ryzen 9000 by 3D Zen 5" CPUs, and we learned that full overclocking support is going to be one of those new things that can explain the faster multi-core performance. Surely, it's interesting to see the first bit of performance information about the upcoming Ryzen 9000 by 3D CPUs, since these SKUs are highly awaited by consumers, given the reputation Zen 4 counterparts have created. However, given the ambiguity of the leak, we can't be sure whether these results would reflect in a real-time performance review, and only time will decide whether we witness a 10% plus boost in these new SKUs.